group of hypothesizers, if you will, a community of people connected to the web, as mundane as it can be, with somewhat similar but diverse outlooks on things to come. Different doomsday scenarios, whether it be your zombie apocalypse, government falls, and either way, they all share the same thing, and that's preparing for these apocalypse situations. And from there, we kind of stemmed when what we thought were just rumors of Trinaris started to spread, and a lot of the community, I guess, decided, with all that time prepping, it was time to put it to the test. And I would almost say probably everybody. I'm sure if you checked out the forum, the activity would be slim to none. A lot of them were looking forward to nipping a apocalypse possibility right in the bud.
Oh wow, it's kind of grotesque. Very well. So what is it that your group does inside of the Dead Zone?
Well, aside from the primary goal, which is really trying to just eradicate the zombie threat, because the way we look at it, if we can restore the Dead Zone to being all human with no Zeds, then it gets to the point where we don't see a reason it needs to be quarantined anymore. Or at least maybe there would be a chance for evacuation or something of the sort. Because the issue seems to be, with everything going on here, the main focus is not on, except for a few scientists you might meet trying to find cures and such. There's just so much anarchy in human versus human interactions that we see. We just want to turn that back around to taking care of what makes this area cut off from the rest of the world. And let's be honest, if we don't flatten it here, like the government's already given up trying, it will spread out. A wall's not going to stop something like this from spreading.
Between me and you, I've currently got reports from, I guess, higher up officials. There have been outbreaks happening outside of the Dead Zone, and it's been happening more so often. And I say like outbreaks, but it's single acts throughout the borders.
And that's kind of my point. They think they can wall it up and forget about it. I mean, that's what they do with everything. When you think about it, they nuke a place, and then they just ignore the weird genetic outcomes. It's not going to stop it. So we're here to do that primarily, as well as helping the people. I mean, if we can keep the people here alive and strong, and maybe even unite them a little, then in a matter of time, maybe this won't be a dead zone.
That's a good answer. So it's fair to say that you're probably the most friendly group of them all.
We like to think so.
And that is becoming a double-edged sword. It's sort of gotten to the point where I feel there's certain groups that will maybe try to mess with us because we are friendly. But the thing is, we're here for the preservation of the humans and the extermination of the zombies. So when you look at these groups that are harming the other humans or putting them at risk, it only becomes a matter of time before they become equal threat to the zombies and they make it on our hit list. And we don't want to get to that point. Nobody came here with the intention to ever shoot a human. We came here with the intention to shoot rotting flesh, which is a lot easier than living flesh that you know is going to feel that pain as much as you would.
Okay. So, you came from a forum, like you said. What, got you start... why did you start recruiting from the Dead Zone?
Well, we did meet, most of the people so far are originally from the forum. However, we have met people here that either were a lot of them were related to preppers, or even had parents that were preppers, or maybe they were even preppers themselves, and just, it's almost like it's fate, that they had that, they're not military, they're not anything super special. They're just people that spent time at the range, or maybe they just learned some basic field medic stuff, And Charlotte's a perfect example. I mean, she was not here because of the DPS stuff. So although I knew her through the forum, she was here from medical school, I believe.
Before you butcher my story too much, I'll just go ahead and kind of tell it. Basically, I met Crux here through the forums, like he was saying, and then my fiance, who is unfortunately lost to the zombies and the infected, but he was stationed here at the time of the quarantine and when the outbreak happened, and managed to get himself, for lack of a better word, killed. And I'm trained medically, and I heard word that Crux and the rest of the gang was going to be moving into the area, so naturally I made an effort to seek them out so I could offer my training to them while they were here in the efforts that they're putting forth to better the area and be of help to any survivors that might be around.
And that's just one of many examples of, people we can actually meet here that actually can, have the same goals, and just want to make Chernarus a livable and habitable place again.
Oh, that's a lot of dedication. Personally, I feel like there is no way back, unfortunately. These things just seem to be multiplying.
Yeah, well, I have yet to not find a bullet, so the day I can't find, actually, let's be honest, machete's all you really need. So the day I can't find a sharp blade or a hard enough rock, and there's a bunch of zombies, maybe then I'll give up hope. But until then, I think we could outnumber them.
Yeah, but we can't do it alone, and you know that.
So basically, you're recruiting people for the necessary skills to eradicate the infection.
Yeah, and as well as help the people that are currently here.
Okay.
Because we need them, whether they join us or not, we need them as much as they need us.
And that's what they need to realize, is that we're not in this against each other. Yeah, okay, that's gonna happen eventually at some point, but we have a common enemy, and it's not each other. So we're hoping our efforts kind of, I guess, make that a more known fact, I guess. Or they realize it.
Okay, so when you first came to the Dead Zone, obviously you expected it to be hell, but how did you actually deal with the horror itself? Like, obviously you banded together and whatnot, but I guess on a more emotional level, a more personal level, how did you actually deal with that?
Well, I mean, we've all had like our shares of odd experiences in our life, and I guess I've been through enough things to kind of harden me some, and I expected, I don't know what I expected actually when I got here. I had my fantasy idea of what to expect, of course, but I was actually never prepped. Uh, I was never a prepper for this kind of scenario, really, even though it seems to be the more popular ones among preppers is the zombie one. I was always a government fall type, so I expected to be fighting men in uniform someday, not brainless, rotting flesh zombies. So, and to be honest, I think it was a little easier for me because I had spent so much time prepping for something that, in my opinion, it would have been much worse. Uh, and other ones deal with it different ways. We have a trouble child, if you will, in our group, Derek. And Derek has gotten himself in some trouble here and there because he's let some stuff get to him, and he hasn't handled things as well. Um, I actually, I mean, he defended DPS as well as some friends we had traveling with us, but I mean, he had to kill two men with a hatchet, and you know, it takes a lot to do that.
I can't imagine. So,
It's one thing to shoot a guy from 100 meters away and not have to see the look on his face. It's another thing to bury a hatchet in the back of a skull.
so obviously you were slightly prepared, but would you say that the outbreak and all this has changed you in any way?
Um, I'm a little more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Stick in the mud.
Yeah. No, not stick in the mud. Come on now. It's a cynic. Is that the word? I hate when my vocabulary leaves me, but let's say I've become more of a cynic. I believe that's the word I'm looking for. And I think if I was to leave the dead zone and go back to like a normal life, I'd maybe be a little harsher, maybe a little less forgiving for some people because there's so less to complain about. When you see a situation like the one we're seeing before us, it hardens you to a point where if you go back to the pampered life you had before, you're just going to spend a lot of it pissed off.
Okay, thank you. If you don't mind, could you tell us a little bit more about, like, yourself? Like,
Oh, let's see, where would I even start with that? Well, I'm American, if you can't tell by my lack of any interesting or unique accent. Um, I born and raised pretty much shithole borders of the great capital, and I think that's an interesting place to grow up in America because you see all these little government tools, and then you see all these very freedom-loving patriots just south, and I don't know, you start to realize that there's so much diversity, and I guess I always grew up not wanting to be like everybody else, and with a very open view of things. I've always hated politics. I think politics is two sides of the same mud. It's just one side it's gunk, and the other side it's gunk. So I don't know. I've never been a sports fan. I don't know if that's important. Spent a lot of my time at the range. I've always liked guns. I used to shoot with my grandfather when I was young, and once or twice got to go, with my dad. But my dad was never as big on guns. Uh, when I was young, I witnessed my mom killed. I don't even. It's not that much interest about me, but I guess as far as my prepper self goes, I can at least cover that pretty much detail because that's been the last few years of my life, and spent a lot of time at the range, a lot of time at the range, a lot of time getting guns. I built uh, some simpler guns that you can easily get some tools and the parts and build, and always open carried my handgun, and I don't know. I've always had a thing. Don't know why for guns. So that was a main thing, as well as just a lot. You got to spend a lot of camping. I feel like when you camp, you start to learn what life was like. And when you're out there in the wilderness and there's no buildings, no skyscrapers, not a bunch of trash, there's just it's nature, the way things were, the way things should be. And you realize that city life, that suburban life, 9 to 5 jobs, all that stuff. It's just it's almost decaying what the human's supposed to be. And so I guess I'm sort of a guy that just wants to be a natural guy. Maybe that was part of what brought me out here was knowing that civilization wasn't necessarily going to be intact, and maybe I'd get to live that more natural life. With the only downside being, an undead threat. But I don't know. Sum me up in a nutshell. I'm like an intentional oddball, I guess.
Fair enough. So, in my last article, I supported your group saying you are not bandits. What do you have to say to those that accuse you of being bandits?
I have to say, if you have any situations where you think DPS was involved in banditry, we have an open radio I'll give you, the frequency, and you can put it in your paper, and people can reach us there, and they can, hit me up. I usually have my radio on, and I'll immediately handle if it was somebody that was, a member and not just somebody that, we've been around. Because we are friendly with anybody who we don't have a reason not to be. If we don't know that they've partooken in banditry or any sort of wrongdoing towards the other people, then, we can't just throw them aside. We're going to be friends with them. And if they do good things to help us and aid us, as far as we see that, they're aiding everybody. So, we need to know from the people if there's somebody we shouldn't be friends with, if we shouldn't be close with, and if a DPS member is wronging people, we need to know. And we'll either handle their punishment or we'll hand them over to the people they wronged, and they can do what they think should be done.
So, what do you think is the leading cause of these people that are accusing you? Why do you think they're doing this?
Well, it could be a mixture. There are some bad groups that I think even know they're the bad groups. Like in a bad movie, and you watch it, and the bad guy knows he's the bad guy, but yet he convinces himself so strongly that the good guy is the bad guy. And I think there's groups like that, and they want to make up crap about DPS that could peg us bad so even the other good guys won't trust us. Because in order for us to succeed, we pretty much need everybody on our side, and we need to be on everybody's side. Because we're just one aiding force. And if people spread false rumors, then we can't prosper, and then those bandits have nothing to worry about.
Oh. So, in terms of your current diplomatic relationships, who are you friends with?
Well, that's a tricky one. We were building up some good relationships with a few groups, but I'm just not sure. Most of them either made it or maybe they just merged in other groups, but it's hard to say. I mean, it's so hard to even keep track of what's really going on out here that if you don't see somebody or hear them on the radio for a couple days, you don't even know if they're alive. And I mean, I'll still give the respect out to the people. If John Casey's still out there somewhere, he was a great guy, but I don't know whatever happened with his group. I only got to see him twice. He helped us get some rides around and pick up some of our people. Uh, he was a really good dude. And then there was the Legion of the Lost, and I think I got some tragic news I had heard, but I wasn't sure if it was true or not about what happened to what Connor Perry. I feel bad that I can't even remember his name at this point, but
Yeah, I ran in with him.
yeah,
as
it
well.
was. I don't know. It was. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. Like I said, you just don't even know unless you see things for yourself anymore. But those two we were actually building a pretty good relationship with, and sadly I haven't heard from them. So I'm starting to wonder if we're a bad omen at this point. But when it comes to friends, like I don't even know who you can trust anymore. We were building some good bonds with. I'm sure you've heard of Razul, and the general that I had peace talks with. Apparently died recently, and Razul went and they stole an SUV and robbed. Uh, well, they stole an SUV from one of my men and robbed him. And I was a little taken back until I realized, uh, when I started asking some people around, I realized that they no longer had the general they had before, and he was the only one I had ever talked to about our agreement. So obviously, in the wake of his death, Um, nobody that was remaining really cared uh, what him had talked about. So, oh, and Vortex security, I would avoid them at all costs.
So you're kind of like in a sticky situation with Thrones. I take it you don't have allies or any official allies at the moment either.
Not any longer now that the two we did have we haven't heard from, and I'm not sure that's gonna really help people want to be our allies. But we at least, by default, we're friendly with anybody until we hear some news or personally are given a reason not to. So we'll aid anybody, even if they don't want to aid us in return. If they don't do anything bad, we're gonna help them if they need the help.
Now you could probably
Yeah, with that being said, if I give you a blood bag and you decide to rob me or injure me in any way, I'm gonna think twice about it next time.
so I take it it's pretty modest. Now you can probably guess what's coming. What groups do you dislike and which ones are you actively hostile against?
Well, the thing is, it takes a lot to piss me off. Uh, if you can't tell, I'm a pretty tolerable person. But the thing is, when certain scum just show a lack of sense or even caring, it starts to get under my skin. And in a world this harsh, I just don't see the point for how certain groups act. And the only group so far that's gotten to that point with us is the lovely VS, or Vortex Security, I believe they're called. And they've
Give me my badge.
managed to get under DPS skin to the point of level 2, as we call it. And when somebody's a red level 2, uh, we deem them a danger to the people to have firearms and ammunition. We don't rob them. They can keep their food. They can keep their medicine. They can keep anything like that. They can keep their, machetes, hatchets, anything. It doesn't really matter because that's all you really need to survive out here is your supplies and something to whack a zombie with. And so the thing is, when those guns are used to take advantage of the weaker people, uh, without a police force or any type of government, although I'm not a fan of them, animals need to be tamed. And when an animal has a fully automatic gun, uh, to me, that animal needs tamed. And the way we do that is we take away that firearm and any ammunition.
That's very, very generous. It's a generous way of dealing with things. Most people would, I guess, shoot first. Now, what would you say is the main competitor to DPS?
Well, competitor how exactly?
Who do you feel would be one who would, I guess, knock you out of the core and take over, and then other would be which group would be silencing you and stopping you from achieving your mission?
Well, as far as the second, I do worry about this shift in Razul. They seem a very broad and powerful group, and I worry if they're just acting out against anybody so drastically they could put a big dent in our abilities. And as far as like who would maybe take over, I almost wouldn't care if there was a group. I haven't seen a lot of groups that seem to have a 100% goal like us. I mean, a lot of them are like nice groups, but still have a bit of harshness or still have personal gain in sight. Where I feel like we will go do our own work for our gain, and we won't take advantage of somebody else's work. And the only thing we do involving other people is try to give them a hand, maybe help them out. And if we do help a group, the most we might ask is ammunition to make sure we can keep shooting at zombies. But that's really about the only payment we ever need if we're escorting somebody around. Because, I mean, we keep ourselves supplied for ourselves, and then we gather more and distribute it. Uh, I think it also helps with us being preppers. We know all about rationing. We know how to make stuff last. And so us gathering up all the resources and distributing them uh, kind of carries on that knowledge to the rest of the people. But if I saw another group that was coming up, they were doing the same thing we were doing but better, I wouldn't be bothered. I already said before, we really don't hold ranks. Yes, I'm kind of the leader, but that's really, I'm the founder. I founded DPS, uh, and I do expect a little bit of respect from them because, it was my idea, but at the same time, I don't expect these guys to bow down and kiss my boots. Uh, so, if another group came up, I would be just as honored probably to follow them if they were actually, better than us with the same kind of goals.
So, when you say they were the founder, did you actually make the forums yourself that you were on?
Yeah, I mean, I had a techie friend or two that were a little more familiar with forum layouts, help me set a thing up here or there. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, I had searched around, and I mean, there was some communities, but some of them are, I swear, just full of like crazies. Like there's preppers, and then there's like crazies, like, oh, the aliens are coming, make sure you're prepared to go up to the mothership. And I didn't really want to join a community that had too many crazies, because then all of a sudden I felt like my idea made me crazy, and here I am shooting zombies. So I wasn't that crazy. So it's I came to a point where I was like, I'm gonna make a community, and it's gonna, at least have specific categories. It's gonna keep out the crazies, but keep in the semi crazies. And give it a few days of tweaking around, trying to get all the HTML crap right and the BB code working well right in the forums. And we had this little issue with signatures for a while. It didn't want to lay out and it wasn't formatting and it was taking up half the screen. But once we had all that sorted out, there was DPS, and we were surprised. I mean, I guess just having, doomsday preppers, especially with just the doomsday preppers. I didn't realize actually how common of a term that was for, preppers in general, from a wide variety. So a lot of people found it rather fast, and community grew pretty well. So, continue.
Do you have any social policies that the DPS have in place?
We have a few, I don't know, I like to call them more moral obligations for being in. He's riding a bike. Probably the first time he's riding a bike in a long time. But, yeah, I mean, we have a few things. One of them, and it's just always been my personal opinion, and it's kind of under trial right now, but it's the shoot second. In my opinion, it's a second evil clause. It's like if somebody goes to stab you and you stop them and you happen to have a knife, do you stab them back or do you just hold them back? You would stab them, right? Equal force. They came at you with a knife, obviously they wanted to kill you. You should defend yourself. So it's sort of that concept, we shouldn't shoot anybody that we don't know for a fact wasn't going to shoot us. So that's under trial. That may have to change based off how some of the robberies seem to go around here, where sometimes that first shot might be in the back of your head. And yeah, so there's situations like that where unless we want to have to lose a member in order to shoot somebody, yeah, it could just be a very costly policy. And aside from that, simple things. We do not steal. Disarming and stealing to me are two different things. When we're disarming from dangerous man, it's different than stealing from innocent people. And boy, I think I could remember my own codes here. Oh, well, I kind of already mentioned this at least 3 or 4 times, so that's probably why it didn't go in my head, but, at least helping out people. If somebody needs something and we have it to spare, it's not necessarily if somebody needs food and you only have 1 can of food on you, you're just going to go give them that unless you know there's food nearby. Because we have to obviously live to keep helping people. So that's another thing. Basically help people. If we see somebody in need, we help them. And I mean that's pretty basic. I feel like that should be in everybody's mindset in this place. I mean it's a troublesome place. You would think anybody would see somebody in need, and if they have something to spare, they would spare it. But a lot of people seem to be getting selfish. So that's probably one of our biggest policies that set us apart from a lot of people.
I'm gonna go see what that crazy kid got himself into. Hang on.
Yeah, remind him we're recording over here.
That's okay. What are the DPS plans? I understand there may be some restrictions that apply here, but can you, what can you tell me?
Well, I mean, we're pretty open. I mean, obviously, location undisclosed. But aside from that, our main goals have been pretty much to just try to make ourselves useful. We've been trying to see if we could salvage transportation, and our luck with that has been rather up and down. Right now, a little more up, but knowing our luck, it'll go down again. But we're trying to at least, as I said before, we want to be able to have a lot of food and we're a lot of supplies so we can distribute them, and as well as making sure we have plenty of arms and ammunition so that the zombies never do become a very serious threat to us. Because the day the zombies threaten us, it's just not going to be a good day. They should never have to worry about them. We should always feel like we can take them on by the hordes if need be. And so, right now, our current plans are to stockpile and get the tools needed to be useful. And then, I mean, once we have that and we're feeling comfortable with it, we'll really just be going out and we'll be trying to find people and groups and even places where people congregate where we can actually help out.
Okay, talking of plans, what were your expectations of the group, and to what extent have they fulfilled them?
Right now, it seems like my group's trying to get their 15 seconds of fame. At least they try to have fun. But what was the full question again? Sorry, they had distracted me.
What were your expectations of the group, and to what extent has it been fulfilled?
Well, I'll be honest. We've hit a little bit of a backstep from what I expected. I mean, a lot of us were preppers, and a lot of us did come with a lot of stuff. But for a lot, it was a lot more than they expected when they first got here. And because of that, they had easily lost, misplaced stuff. Lots of them got robbed of that stuff right off the bat. And so we don't have the big amount. Like, we expected to get here and almost immediately be able to start being helpful. Minus actually having transportation. That was something we didn't have from the start. We figured it would probably be easy to acquire, but it was it's a little trickier than we expected. But as far as how much we've accomplished for how much we backpedaled, I think we've done pretty decent. I think for the little bit of time we've actually finally been together, because some of us have been here longer than others, and working on it alone really. And but since we've actually grouped up, I think we've actually done quite a bit. We've apparently become more known than I thought we were, and we've made up for a lot of lost time from all the stuff we lost at the beginning. So I'd say I'm pretty proud of the group so far. Yeah. Anyways, I'd say I'm pretty proud of them so far, but we still got a lot of work to do. So
Yeah.
How do you feel about the DPS's stance in the dead zone, and are you happy with it?
For the current moment, yes. I'll be honest, I wish we were standing a little taller, but not yet. I'm kind of glad we're not. When we have more, I hope even the worst of the bandits respect us, because they realize if they're nice, we're just another resource for them to have. We're a resource for everybody, and maybe some people don't want to get out of here. Maybe some of those people that really just like to sit back and watch the world burn like it in here and like the chaos because they can do whatever they want. But I have a feeling the majority of the people in here are a little more human than that. And so I hope eventually people realize this, and our stance becomes one where everybody gives a nice salute to a DPS member.
We'd like to think that quality stands before quantity.
So, going back towards, I guess, the beginning of the interview, you're essentially a friendly group. Why have you chosen to be a friendly group?
Well, I guess I mean, not. I would say it's kind of the prepper mentality, but that's not even true. Some preppers, they'll spend a bunch of money, build a super tough bunker, get enough supplies for them and their family, and then never plan on helping anybody else. But in the DPS community, it seemed like most of the people were the helpful sort, and maybe it's obvious because it was a society and not individuals. And being it was a society, obviously it's social people that were going to join it, and I guess we just all had that uniform. Nobody wanted to come here to be harsh, and anybody who's been stuck here anyways, the last thing they want to do is take a shitty situation and make it worse. And I feel I feel like we just didn't even have to discuss it. There was no discussion. There was no, hey, should we be friendly or should we go there and feed anarchy? There's no debate. There was no questioning it. We just came here and knew what we wanted to do, and it just happened to be friendlier than most, apparently.
Okay, I think we're gonna wrap it up here with, is there anything you would like to say to the people of the Dead Zone?
I'd like everybody to know that DPS is here to help. Um, I'd like the bandits to even know if you go to rob somebody and they say the DPS, don't worry about the gun in their hand. Just let them hold on to that, and anything in their backpack is likely going to be yours. That gun's not meant for you. That gun's not meant for anybody else. It's meant for the brainless, flesh-eating things that are walking around. And to all the non-bandits out there, we'd like you to know that DPS is here for you, and if you're here for DPS, we really want to make friends with people, get to know everybody around here, get to actually get kind of a consensus of, how many people there really are, how many survivors there really are here, and how many actually have similar or good goals.
Well, it was an honor speaking to you, Crux. I wish you good fortune and a healthy future. Thank you for your time.
Same to you, Roach. It was fun.